Hey y'all, Father Jim Haney from St. Paul's in the Plains. Yesterday was President's Day, a day when we pause to remember and give thanks for important presidents, especially President George Washington and President Abraham Lincoln, whose birthdays are both in February. Lincoln is one of my heroes. We've taken the kids to visit Lincoln's birthplace. We visited his adult home in Springfield, Illinois. We've visited his grave there, and also the really wonderful interactive Lincoln Museum in Springfield. We've also taken the kids to the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. One of the things I love about Lincoln is his humility. He led the nation through a tremendously divisive time in the American Civil War, and yet he was always clear that while he was trying to act according to his conscience, he would not claim that God was on his side. In fact, at one point he wrote, "In great contests, each party claims to act in accordance with the will of God. Both may be and one must be wrong. God cannot be for and against the same thing at the same time." And he adds, in the present Civil War, it is quite possible that God's purpose is somewhat different from the purpose of either party. That kind of tremendous humility, I think, is important for us. We, as human beings, try to live according to what we perceive to be God's will, and yet God's ways are far beyond ours, far above ours. And we need to stand before that mystery with the humility that says, I'm trying to act as I believe God would have me act, and yet I have to admit that God's ways are beyond mine. And many folks, many pundits now are saying that we live in the midst of a time that they're terming the Second American Civil War. That may be a little bit of an overreach, but it certainly is a period of a fair amount of divisiveness and conflict. And I think in such a time it's important for all of us to have humility. Yes, it is important in a democracy that we do battle in the marketplace of ideas, that we do share our convictions with conviction. And yet, at the same time, we also need that kind of Lincoln-esque humility that I think I'm right, but I may not be. And I also would encourage us all to remember Lincoln's words from his second inaugural address. As just a few weeks before his assassination, he said the words as they were winding down the Civil War that they needed to act with malice towards none and with charity for all. I would remind you that charity is actually not just giving to the poor, but in that sense, it was the word that St. Paul used in 1 Corinthians 13, talking about love. In the old days, they translated that word charity, caritas in Latin. And we need that kind of Christian love for each other in the midst of disagreements, in the midst of profound disagreements at times. We need to act without malice and with Christian love for all, even those with whom we disagree. And so I will leave you with those Lincoln-esque thoughts.